Welcome to the Stand Like Men podcast. I'm Logan Ingram.
And I'm Daniel Schallenberg.
And we are here to explore what it means to live out true masculinity. This podcast is about us becoming the men that God wants us to be and encouraging y'all to join us on the way.
Yeah, and if you're enjoying the show, we'd love it if you would like and subscribe and leave us a comment. That would really help us out a lot, and we'd really appreciate it.
Well, Danny, we had a snow day here recently.
We did.
What did y'all do on the snow day?
Well, first of all, it was like the best snow for
It really was.
pretty much anything.
It was.
Like it was just wet enough that you could pack it, but it didn't like immediately turn to ice.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Yeah, it was perfect moisture level, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, well, maybe not moisture level. I don't know. How do you? I don't even know how you categorize snow because it's either dry or real wet. And this was like right in the middle. It was perfect because dry, you can pick it up, try and pack it, and it doesn't stick. Real wet, it's just like you make an ice ball.
I heard somewhere that the Inuit people had like 12 or more different words for snow.
Really?
To describe the different types of snow.
Wow.
I thought of that today. I was wondering what kind of snow we had.
I don't know. It was the best.
It was the great one.
Best kind. It'd be like the best snowboarding and skiing snow. It's the best snowball fight snow, best snowman snow.
We made, Emmett went sledding for a while. And then that afternoon he came out and he started making a fort. And so I'm like, all right, well, let's make a fort. And he goes, and I want to make it domed. I'm like, oh, okay. Igloo, yeah. Except we did it, but we didn't make it bricks. We just
you didn't make blocks.
We didn't make blocks. We didn't have anything to make blocks with. So we just scooped it up and just kind of packed it on there and just we completed the dome. It was just like a nice little dome.
That's all. Big enough to fit in?
Yeah, I could sit in it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Now it was only like, I guess 5 sides we left one side completely open. It was just a little dome tent thing.
Awesome.
It was nice. It was fun. What'd you do?
We actually didn't have any snow fights or build snowmen or anything like that. I got out and hunted in the snow.
Okay.
The kids ran around in the snow and played and drug each other on the 4-wheeler and on the side-by-side. They did a lot of that stuff.
Okay.
And
so they went sledding.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We didn't have a hill really to go down, but we didn't have any normally at the end of Fairview, right at the hill at Eagle View. That we block off the road and have like this huge sledding hill right there, but it's on the road. And last year the cops were called and the cops didn't do anything to us because they love what we're doing anyway. And there's a way around.
Yeah.
And some people don't like it though. But this year they had sprayed the roads in preparation for the snow and people were driving up and down. And so all the snow was wiped out within a couple hours just on the road. So we didn't get to do any of that. I
did notice that the roads were fairly clear.
They did a good job this year.
I need a taller car though, because I've got 2 cars that are pretty low to the ground, and they're not fancy or sporty or anything. They're just short, which is hard for a person with long legs to get in and out of, but it's fine. But yeah, the snow had kind of piled up where the tires had created ruts and kind of piled up in the middle, and I was scraping on some of the areas. So I need a taller car.
I hear you.
Maybe by next year.
It sounded like everybody had a pretty good snow day.
Yeah, I know.
I think the whole town loved it.
There, shout out to Mike who ended up in the ditch.
No,
I don't know if he listens to the podcast or not, but I saw him ranting on Facebook. He's from Wyoming, and he was upset that Cersei doesn't have a snowplow. I'm like, that's just a misuse of government funds right there.
Yeah. Anyway. We need it for one day a year.
Yeah,
about 3 hours a year.
Yeah,
just pretty much. Yeah.
Poor Mike. Anyway. He's fine. He was able to walk home and he's fine. But it was, I don't know if, can we include that?
That's because that guy might need a mentor.
Yeah.
Someone to show him the ropes around town.
What a great transition.
That's a perfect segue, my boy. So today we want to explore the importance of mentorship and not just worldly mentorship like at work or school or whatever else, but spiritual mentorship. I believe it's unbelievably vital to our success as men and in our spiritual walks. I mean, it really is, because Jesus was the ultimate mentor. He grabbed a bunch of ruffians and mentored them through their spiritual walk, and then they became the great men and women that they did. And so I think it's very biblical, and I know that I would not be where I am business-wise, emotionally, or spiritually without the mentors that I have and have had? What kind of role do you think mentors play in our lives? And especially, I kind of really want to focus on the young men right now and how important it is for the younger listeners, the men, to starting to seek out mentors and to pray about mentors and realize the importance earlier, how important they are.
Yeah. So I was actually going to start with what is a mentor.
Okay.
Is that okay if we?
Yeah. You want me to answer?
Yeah. What is a mentor?
So a mentor is a guide, in my opinion. They're not there to do your work for you.
Yeah.
They're not there to shove you along. They're there as a guiding hand. And the real purpose of them is to guide you through the experience you're going through at the time or for what you need right then. Like I've got mentors that are really just business because they've experienced things in business that a lot of people I don't know have. And so they are the perfect ones to guide me through these transitions and these events that are happening. And then I've got people who, like almost therapist. I'm going through an emotional struggle in my life at some point, and lo and behold, someone else has been through that. Like when my mom died, we had friends invite us over, and they just kind of helped walk us through what their experience was like when they lost their mom. And so it's just a spiritual hand, or not even always a spiritual, it could be physical sometimes, is just guiding you through that moment in your life. And they could last a lifetime. Some of them could be just for a season. Because like my coaches, they were mentors really just while I played.
Yeah.
And they were there for encouragement. They were there to show me how to work out and how to play football and whatever. And some of them I don't talk to, some of them I still do. And they're still mentors in a way. And then there's others who are specifically for business, others who are not specifically spiritually, but you don't have to just have one. There can be one who's done a ton of things that you're interested in, but it could be multiple for any circumstance of your life, really. But they're just a guide to help you, to encourage you, to
offer
show
advice
you the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, to offer advice, show you the way or show you possibilities.
Okay, great. I think that summed it up perfectly. So what was your question?
So how important do you think? I've got my opinions about it and how important I think they're extraordinarily important. I want to know your opinion.
I was also going to say that they're very important.
Well, that's great. It's not just one way.
Excellent. It's almost like
I'm glad we're on the same page.
Yeah, it's really good that we're on the same page. I think they're incredibly important, and we've talked about this before. How are we going to learn something? How are we going to know something unless we're taught? And how are we going to know how to do things unless we're taught?
Yeah.
And so it's always better to have a personal relationship with someone who's teaching you things.
Yes.
Like you're going to learn it better and more completely, and you're going to be in a much better place if you know that person personally. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to add on that. Do you have anything to add on that? I don't know if I answered it well.
No, that was fine.
Okay.
I think that mentorship is one of the most powerful ways that God can help shape our lives. Because we talked about it on the last episode, how to, kind of a little bit, how does he speak to us? And it's through his word. I also believe it's through other people, not necessarily like he takes over our body and speaks for us or anything. And maybe he does do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I think it's that those people are filling their lives up spiritually. They're filling their cups, and the fruits are being produced are wisdom, and they're outpouring on you as a mentor, and they help you. And God is using those mentors to help shape your life through lessons and encouragement and correction and whatever else he might see fit.
Yeah. So what's the difference between a mentor and what's the difference between a mentorship and a discipleship?
I might have to ask you that question.
Okay. No, that's fine. I can give it a stab. I don't know if I know the answer specifically, and there's a lot of wiggle room there because there's definitely an overlap.
Yes, there is.
I think discipleship is Is there a difference between discipleship and mentorship?
I don't think there has to be all the
There
time.
probably doesn't have to be.
Not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Because generally the mentors were disciples at one time and still are to a degree, especially if we're talking about spiritual mentorship and people helping you in your walk with Christ. Like they're still disciples.
Yeah.
And then they're just mentoring you.
Yeah.
Or a group of people.
Yeah, it typically in this relationship, whether you've got a mentor and a mentee, or discipler and disciplee, discipler, yeah, discipler and disciplee. One is more experienced than the other.
Yes,
and the one with more experience is guiding and teaching the one with less experience.
Yep,
and they're guiding them, they're instructing them, they're giving advice, and I believe there should be a level of accountability. And maybe that's the difference between discipleship and mentorship, is that does a mentor hold the mentee accountable, or do they just kind of like
I think they do.
Advice?
I think they do, in that, like with some of mine, I don't want to disappoint them. Mm-hmm. And so there's just like this assumed accountability almost. Like they're not going to question me about it.
Yeah.
But there's going to be some accountability at some point, because if, say I'm mentoring someone, if that sucker's not listening, at some point I'm going to just scoot out.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to fade, and I'm like, well, I mean, I'm not going to put as much effort in because you're not putting any effort in. Mm-hmm. So there's an accountability in that, I believe. And then others, you can hire business coaches, and so like even look at a personal trainer. You can hire a personal trainer that will call you and scream at you at 4 a.m. If you want to. And so you can choose those types. Yeah. But they don't have to always do that though. Mm-hmm. I don't even think to be effective, they don't have to do that, because you can put it on yourself. Yeah. Just the accountability of not wanting to disappoint, and because you don't want to lose them either. And I mean, there's lots of notable mentor and mentee couples throughout the Bible. Like look at Moses and Joshua. Yeah. You know, Joshua learned under Moses. He was there when they showed the promised land. And then the people rebelled and didn't want to go in. And Joshua was the one who just learned everything from Moses. Moses handed off the reins to him 40 years later. Mm-hmm. You know, you look at Elijah and Elisha, one of the most famous probably. Yeah. Working under and learning and mentoring all the way. Paul and Timothy. Mm-hmm. Talk about them in the New Testament a lot. And
Jesus and the apostles.
Yeah, Jesus and the apostles is a perfect one. Yeah. And but there's tons more than that. Those are just a couple.
Definitely.
Just a couple. So a lot of those men weren't just mentors in that, you know, just skills. Like, well, here's how you do this one thing. Here's how you tie your shoes. Here's how you lead a group of people and just, you know, help de-escalate a situation or something, and skills. But they were taught character and integrity by their mentors, and faithfulness as well. Because it's not just a mentor speaking to you and talking at you, say, do this, do this, do this, do this. Yeah, to be an effective mentor, and this goes to young men, hopefully you'll be seeking out mentors and things to watch out for, is they live it. Mm-hmm. They're living the life that they're telling you about. They're doing it every day still. Mm-hmm. And so like that, you know, they're living out having good character. They're living out integrity. They're living out faithfulness. Mm-hmm. And so you see those, and those are the fruits of their life as well. Yeah. And so you want to watch for those, because you don't want to just go pick some random person who's not bearing any fruit. Mm-hmm. Be like, I want you to mentor me in being a great father and husband. Well, if they've been divorced and haven't spoken to their kids, they're not going to be a good mentor for you in that. Yeah.
I mean, just real quick with 1 Timothy chapter 3, it's the characteristics of an overseer or elder. And a lot of people say qualifications. I feel like it's characteristics is better.
I believe that.
And it starts listing off things. Is like, you need to make sure that they don't get drunk, that they are the husband of one wife, that their kids, and to your point, their kids are Christians, are faithful believers, because how can this person be an elder and a shepherd of the church if they can't even shepherd their own kids?
Right.
If they can't even raise up their own kids, how can you expect them to actually lead the church toward closer to Christ? And the answer is obviously no, you can't. And so, yeah, to your point, like, you need to find somebody that already had, that you would consider, qualified isn't the right word, that you would consider to be a prime example of whatever. Yeah. Man, I wish my brain would, work until the thought was completed instead of stopping 90% of the way. I'm sure the listeners just sitting there screaming at me like, come on, man, you know what the word is. I don't.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, everybody.
That's okay.
I failed you all.
Well, going back to why young men need mentors, and this is what we just covered on the other podcast, is, fighting, how are we navigating our faith through cultural norms in society now and the way it is. And there's lots of voices competing for young men's and women's attention. Mm-hmm. You have media, culture, your friends, sports. You got tons of stuff that are competing for these young men and their attention. Well, a godly mentor can help provide a voice, through all that noise. We talked about, like, when I was talking about being in the woods and my ears get tuned to what's around me. Well, they can be that voice that's hopefully speaking a little bit louder and a little clearer to you. And it's rooted in wisdom, hopefully.
Yeah.
And grounded in faith. That was the end of that thought.
No,
I'm trying to segue into the next.
Okay, so how do you find a mentor? Or how do you find a mentee?
Well, so let's look at, how do you find a mentor?
So do you ask
first
them,
of all,
or do they ask you, or is it just kind of like
I'll go into that,
and
I'll share perfect real life examples. So pray.
Okay.
First, I think that number one, you start praying about it. You ask God to help show you one, or if you already know one that you think is good, ask God to let you know if they're right for you, or if they'll accept if you ask. But spiritual guidance through prayer. Sometimes it can be somebody through your church. Sometimes it could be family, friends, or other relationships. You can purposefully and intentionally seek out relationships with others, especially those that are a little bit older than you, or have interest or have experiences and stuff that you want to experience. Mm-hmm. I've brought it up before. My mentor in real estate is based out of San Antonio, and I met him in 2012, and we parted ways. Mm-hmm. And I thought about him forever. And I'll tell you exactly why here in a minute, why I could not get this guy out of my mind. For years, until 2023. And I said, man, I've been thinking about this guy. He has lived the life in real estate that I want to. Mm-hmm. He has accomplished those things. And I should have asked him a long time ago to help teach me somehow. And I didn't know at the time. I was young. I didn't know. It was 12 years prior. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what value I could add to him. I didn't even know the right questions to ask. Mm-hmm. I called him out of the blue and said, hey, John, this is, and we had talked a little bit, but it was totally unrelated to any kind of mentorship. It was just about a real estate deal or something here and there. But I really hadn't spoken to him in like 12 years, except once. Mm-hmm. And I said, all I know is that from what I can tell, you're the best at this in the world. Mm-hmm. From all the people that I know and the evidence that I've seen, you're probably one of the best in the entire world at this thing. And I know I have to learn that. Mm-hmm. I have to. I said, I'm willing to do whatever. I'll work on it myself for the rest of my life if I have to learn it. I said, the quickest way I know to learn it, though, is to call you and ask you if you'll teach me. Mm-hmm. And I should have done it a long time ago. And he laughed that I was even worried about calling him 12 years ago. Yeah. And the dude has just taken me under his wing. Okay. And it's been phenomenal. I've learned more in an hour conversation with him than I've learned in 3 years in real estate.
Yeah.
And it's just immense the amount of knowledge and wisdom he has in real estate deals. But a reason he stuck in my mind so much, not just because he was real estate guru type. It was because how he treated people during the real estate deals that I saw him do in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
He was over generous. He shared way too much info, and he tried to pay people that I didn't feel like deserved it at the time, just being naive. And just, I'm like, why would you do that? Why are you giving that guy that for free? Why are you treating this person so well when they didn't do anything to earn it?
Mm-hmm.
And he acted with full integrity through that time. And that is why he stuck with me, because you watch all these shows and you hear the world talk about, I'm reading a book right now called The Go-Giver. Mm-hmm. And there's a character in that book called the CEO, and she was a teacher, and she talked about how she categorized people into two groups. You were either rich and evil, or you were poor and good. And I had fought with that for forever, thinking, well, the people who are wealthy, it's because they got there the wrong way. Mm-hmm. But I knew that just couldn't be true. But that thought always stuck in my mind. And so when I saw him contradict that worldly view by behaving with integrity and morally and generously in ways I didn't think the other people deserved or whatever, that stuck in my mind. And so now he is a mentor, but he's not. And I thought I would call him and just get, hopefully get some real estate knowledge and be able to add some value back to him. But it's actually been a big spiritual ride for me, which is fascinating because I didn't expect that. But sometimes that's what it takes. It's a bold ask. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how many people will help you if you ask. I grew up thinking that, oh, that's so selfish to ask. These people are so busy. They would never want that. That would be a huge inconvenience for them, for me to ask for them to help me with anything. And it's incredible, especially the older men and women. They are so eager to teach people and not like in a prideful way. Yeah. But they're so desirable to hand off some of their knowledge. And I think it's because they've lived, especially the ones who live a faithful life, who, and they may not even necessarily be Christians and go to Church of Christ and all of that. But they've learned something along the way about how to treat people and how to be fair and to share and to give way more than they receive. And it's amazing how many people believe that and are willing to help you if you just ask. And another way is you've got to be teachable, for one. Yeah. Because if you go and ask somebody, hey, man, I want you to teach me. Well, you better listen and not think you know better than them. Yeah. Because I treated some like that before. I'm like, well, they don't really know. I know. I think I know better than you how to do this. I didn't fight them on stuff, but I didn't really buy in to what they were telling me, and it hurt me. And so you've got to be teachable for sure. And you also, going into it, you do need to, they're not really looking for you necessarily to add value back to them, like, because they know you probably can't. So at least some of them do. They're like, well, I'm 39. So it was 2 years ago. I was 37. Like, I couldn't possibly think of any value that I add to him. And he might look at me the same way and go, this dude's just a kid still, pretty much. Compared to him, he's almost 80. Yeah. And he's done these huge deals. But it wasn't about that. It wasn't about me paying him to do it. It wasn't about me making him millions, working for free. It's honestly adding value is being teachable, because to him, that's a huge thing for him. Yeah. He wants to give back, and he loves to teach younger guys who are coming up and wanting to learn as and girls. And
I've noticed, like, the people that are more advanced in age, their perspective is different. And like that's why they want to give back. They want to teach because they recognize like what actually matters in life. They can look back and they can see when someone cared for them.
Yeah.
They can see when someone took the time to teach them things, and they want to do that for other people. They want to pay it forward for like a better word.
That's the best way to put it.
And they want you to like be teachable so that because they recognize that they're running low on time. And they don't want to waste their time by trying to teach someone who isn't interested in being teachable.
Yes.
And interested in being taught.
Yeah. And that's a value you're adding is being teachable.
Yeah. Because it's letting them pass on their knowledge and their legacy. They worked hard for that knowledge. They worked hard for that experience and that wisdom. And you're giving them an opportunity to pass it on.
And that doesn't mean just popping in and going, hey, I need this from you, and then bailing.
Yeah.
Like that's not how it works.
No, it's a personal relationship that you have to build with them.
Absolutely. And it's, it can be challenging finding mentors, but I believe that God will provide them when we're ready and we're willing. And it's through prayer and seeking out, if we're seeking out the right ones, I think God will help provide them for us.
Yeah.
And, some qualities of a godly mentor to watch out for is, well, first of all, actually, I want to go back to the being teachable. Proverbs 12:1 says, whoever loves discipline loves knowledge. And I love this part. I love the wording. But whoever hates correction is stupid. I don't know what version that is, but it is hilarious to me. But you got to embrace the wisdom that mentors offer, even when it challenges you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good quality of a good mentee, is that you push through when your mentor challenges you.
Yeah.
Because you don't really learn anything, because again, it's not them pushing you through life. Sorry.
Easy.
It's not them dragging you.
Yeah.
They're walking across and they're going, come on, this doesn't look great. Mm-hmm. This is going to be hard, but you've got to come the rest of the way. And they'll hold you by the hand for a little bit and then let go and say, all right, now it's your turn. And that's when they challenge you.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be willing to pick up those and run with them and go ahead, be challenged and try to learn.
With this whole discussion of wisdom and being teachable, something I've been working with my son about is some people can listen to other people and learn from them, and some people just need to pee on that electric fence for themselves.
Yeah.
Like some people can learn from other people's mistakes, and some people can have to pee on the electric fence.
Yeah.
I just don't have a follow-up to that. I just thought it was really funny. Because it's really funny. And then every once in a while, like he'll do something and I'm like, I told you don't do that. And then you did it and you found out the consequence. He goes, yeah, I shouldn't have done that. I'm like, yeah, sometimes you just got to pee on that electric fence, I guess. He goes, yeah. He doesn't like hearing that.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, I mean, we said don't do this and you didn't want to listen to us. And now you have to deal with the consequences.
A good mentor will let you do that.
Yeah.
They'll let you fail.
Yeah.
That's a promise I've made to my kids. I think I've brought it up before, but I've promised to allow them to fail. Mm-hmm. If they're failing, and it's just, I don't think it's great for us to just reach down and save them every time, because they just go, yeah, that wasn't great. Yeah. But then you can give them a leg up. There's a difference between a handout and a leg up. Mm-hmm. And that's actually what mentors are there for, is the leg up. Yeah. They're helping you along. They're not giving you anything. Mm-hmm. They're not handing over success or this spiritual life that you wanted to have. And that's just not how it works. Some qualities that you want to look for in a good mentor are wisdom. Mm-hmm. And that comes from experience. Mm-hmm. So if they, like I've talked about with the marriage part and the fatherhood part, you don't ask someone who's never been married. Like my buddies in college who had no kids had no quality to their wisdom. Mm-hmm. And when they would tell me how to be a father with a newborn. Yeah. And it was funny how many of them decided that they thought they knew. Yeah. Even though they had no kids and weren't married. Mm-hmm. But they're quick. Man, they're quick with advice. But there's no merit to them at all, because they have not experienced it. So you want to find somebody that's been through it. You want to find them, they've got the experience and they gain the knowledge, because you don't want somebody who's just been through it because if they haven't learned anything, then they don't have any wisdom to share.
Yeah.
they've just lived through some hard stuff. That's all.
Yeah.
That doesn't help. So that actually is a really important part, is that you've got to make sure that they've gained wisdom from those experiences. You also want to find, especially when we're talking about spiritual, but I think this is very applicable for business or sports or familial, whatever it is compassion and patience. Because if they have compassion, first of all, they're going to help teach you, like I talked about, how God can shape you through mentors. And compassion and patience is a big quality of God, isn't it? So, isn't it? I don't even know how to say that.
Isn't it?
Isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah, there you go. I can't do it with a British accent.
Well, I mean, God describes himself as compassionate and gracious.
That's right.
Like several times. Like that's how he describes himself. He's like the Lord, compassionate and gracious God.
Yeah. And I mean, it's
full of mercy, abounding in love. So just to completely hijack your point, no, I'm not going to do that. You finish your point.
Well, going back to our last episode, fruits of the Spirit.
Yeah.
Like if you see them producing the fruits, they're probably a good fit.
Yeah.
Goodness, patience, kindness, self-control, all of that stuff. They don't just share knowledge of stuff. Like I talked about with the guys in the Bible, they didn't just share skills. Like he could share, like John could share contract skills, like how to negotiate maybe. Well, that's not all. He can share life, because he's not just showing me how to do it and how to write stuff down and how to take notes or negotiate. He's showing me how to live through life like that too.
Yeah.
It's not just, it's amazing how many lessons I learned from him and others in my life that are mentors, that the lesson doesn't just apply to what we're talking about right then. It applies to a lot of other aspects of my life.
Yeah.
And the compassion and patience part is a good mentor. You're going to, even if you have a good mentor who's shown you the ropes and shown you everything, just like your pee on the fence analogy, you're going to mess up.
Oh, yeah.
And if they're just there like, well, knew you'd mess up, see ya.
Yeah.
Well, they're not a good mentor.
No.
And so a good mentor is going to walk through those struggles with you and help guide you through the issues that come up from challenging you, the challenges that you do face, and they're going to encourage you, especially when you're in times of doubt, like dealing with the loss of my mom, or maybe my marriage isn't going great, or I'm feeling like a failure for some reason. I'm feeling like an imposter. There's just that doubt that comes up, and someone's there to put their arm around you, say, you're doing good. You just keep going.
Yeah.
You're doing good. I mean, they didn't really do anything great. Like that's just a couple word sentence. No big deal. But to me, it makes all the difference.
Yeah.
The encouragement to continue doing what I'm doing when I'm doubting. And especially when we're talking about spiritual mentors, you want them to have a life that's rooted in God's word. People who help guide you through your marriage, fatherhood, your Christian walk. If they're not in the word, then they're not drawing from God's experience, just their own worldly experience. And that's not totally enough either. They could have some good stuff to say, but they're not going to be the ideal spiritual mentor for you.
Yeah. So when do you start mentoring somebody else?
I think as soon as the opportunity arises, because...
Do you ever go out and do you seek people out to mentor?
No,
or do you wait for them to come to you?
So I don't generally seek people out to mentor because of my self-doubt, my imposter syndrome. And some of this is like on my social media stuff that I've started doing, especially with the outdoors, is I realized I actually do have experiences that people haven't. And, I'm not necessarily one-on-one mentoring this person exactly, but I'm sharing knowledge anyway online about how to read this sign, how to deal with this weather, how to navigate this terrain. And it's amazing how many people didn't know that. But I sit here and I take it for granted what I do know. And even at young ages, people have stuff they can share.
Mm-hmm.
They have experiences that they've been through that no one else has been, or someone in their life hasn't been through yet, but now they're about to go through it or they're going through it, and they just need some encouragement. They need somebody to know what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe that, I've been trying to teach my kids this, you be there for the little ones. It's not necessarily just mentorship. Like, I'm going to teach you how to be a businessman. I'm going to teach you how to be a father or a husband. It's, you're getting picked on at school. I'm in 6th grade. You're in 4th grade. I'm going to help you through this.
Sure.
That's a great mentor right there. You don't have to be 70, 80, 90, 50, whatever.
Yeah.
To mentor somebody.
Yeah.
So I think you can start wherever you are in your life. I think it's really important for us to realize that we do have stuff to say. We do have value to add. Kind of, it's one thing I was talking about earlier, is I went through life feeling like I didn't have value to add. That's part of the reason we're doing this podcast. Is I still have self-doubts every time we do this thing. And somebody's already said this. Other people that are way smarter than me have said this way more eloquently than me. Well, maybe some of our listeners don't listen to those guys.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll listen to this, though, and they heard it. Whereas they haven't heard it from the other people because they don't listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, it doesn't really matter. But I think we can mentor where we're at, and no matter what stage we are in our lives. And so I haven't specifically gone out seeking someone to mentor, but I've been dabbling in sharing knowledge somehow.
Yeah.
And hoping that I'm adding value, planting some seeds around somehow.
I've recently had so obviously we're not our own children are people that we're mentoring. I don't want to neglect mentioning that. Like, you are your children's natural born mentor.
Yes.
At least one of them. And so we're not necessarily, we are talking about them, but our guidance can and should extend beyond our own children. So that being said, there's a couple guys that seem like they're starting to ask me questions, and like as if they're interested in the mentorship or interested in gleaning knowledge from me. And boy, does that trigger the imposter syndrome a lot.
Oh man, isn't it bad?
Because they're like, well, you're doing a podcast, so you're an authority. It's like, I'm not going to go down that road. That's dumb. It's just triggering the imposter syndrome pretty bad. But yeah, it's a lot of it is just planting seeds. And like, they're like, hey, can we grab coffee? And you're like, yeah, sure. So we go and we'll grab coffee, and they're like, so what do you think about this? It's like, okay, well, let's talk about that.
A great verse.
Yeah.
For mentorship and teaching and learning. It's Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another.
Mm-hmm.
And something that's interesting about that verse is it's not just one to one. Like, you're like, one piece is not just sharpening the other.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it can be like that, but they sharpen each other.
Yeah.
So I kind of picture myself like maybe when I'm 80 or whatever, and the world's just looking terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, man, there's just no good young men coming up behind us. We've done a terrible job of taking care of the world. And then this young man comes up and says, hey, Mr. Logan, I saw this, and I think you're the best at the world in this, or you might be able to help me in this, or I see you doing this, and I want to learn more about that. And then he starts, we start guiding him a little bit, and I start to gain hope for the future, because there's this young man or woman or whatever who is actually applying what I'm teaching. So we could be, as a mentee, you could be adding unseen value to a mentor.
Yeah.
And they may be more than happy to say yes to your request, if that's the approach you take, is to just flat out, point blank ask them. And generally that's what happens, is you've got to, because there's plenty that'll just be assumed and it just happens naturally. But there's a lot where you're just going to have to point blank ask. And it's the weirdest conversation. You're ever. It's because I had it. I said this. I know I should have done this and I never did, so I'm asking now.
Yeah.
And I know I haven't talked to you in 12 years, but this is how I feel. And the reply was amazing.
Yeah.
And it scared me to death to make the request, but it's changed my life, and I hope that I've given him some hope and helped affect him positively as well in that. And I've got lots of other mentors around town in my family and just friends here at church who have affected my life spiritually in more ways than I could ever count. It's some of these are just the reason I'm using John is because it was so clear. It was one of those where I just said, I know I need this. I need you. Will you do it? And it was a yes. And then there was very clear lessons learned, where some of these others they're not necessarily I need you. I need to learn from you this. It was more, I'm going through something and this person stepped into my life. And now we're great friends, and they are a mentor to me. And they've helped me through it. And we're actually walking through more daily life together rather than just me and John, who lives in San Antonio. Like, we're not doing daily life there. Yeah. But here we are. See or talk to them almost every day. And so that's more of a natural, because you could come into that situation, say at work, you know, maybe you've got a boss or a coworker where you're just around them all the time and they just kind of gradually, naturally take you under their wing.
And you were talking about like the mentee can bless the mentor in unseen ways and like sharpen the mentor in ways that they don't anticipate or see or expect. And so the clearest example of me mentoring someone is I mentor my son. And so I'm trying to impart wisdom onto him and teach him and raise him and guide him in things. In that process, I don't want to damage my witness towards him. I don't want to damage my relationship with him. I don't want to damage my character so that he starts to question whether or not I'm a good mentor. And so indirectly, like, there's a lot of times that when I'm faced, I don't know if this is helpful or not, but sometimes when I'm faced with temptation, like, I might normally give in, but then there's times I'm like, I don't want to do that, because I see a consequence. Like, I see a direct consequence in the raising and mentoring of my son. Yeah. Is that helpful, or is that going to be harming for someone?
Okay. No, I think so. I think it's good.
But
and it goes, you know, one thing I've learned from teaching and just saying yes when someone asks, will you teach this class? Do you do the Devo, whatever it is. But I'm getting, you know, I'm the one teaching and mentoring the classroom or whatever in that 30-minute or hour time frame. Well, it's amazing how sharp I'm getting because I'm diving into that subject.
Because you need to know the subject.
And so inadvertently, I am being sharpened by them because I've got a role to play. And I think that can definitely happen and play such an important role.
Yeah. Talking about iron sharpens iron, like the process of sharpening a blade, you're literally grinding away the imperfections in order to sharpen it. Like, you're literally removing parts of that blade in order to make it sharp. So the mentor process, like, if you're being mentored by someone, it's not going to be comfortable. Like, it's going to be good, it's going to be beneficial, but it's not always going to be comfortable.
Right.
Because if it's done correctly, like, you are removing parts of yourself in order to be more effective. The most dangerous blade is a dull blade.
Yes. 100%.
Because you have to exert more effort into something and more force, and that the more force you put into something, the less control you have. And so, like, you need a dull blade is a dangerous blade. A toxic man is a dangerous man. A dull man is an ineffective man and a dangerous man.
Love that.
That was from the Boys to Men class this summer.
That's great.
It was great.
I think it's a great way to close, unless you got a lot. I've got just a closing statement.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
And a verse to close it.
Have you seen The Forge?
Haven't yet.
Okay. That's a good movie. They're not sponsored, but it's a good movie.
Yeah, I've heard great things about it.
Yeah.
I just, for whatever reason, I haven't seen it yet.
That one was kind of in that story, the mentor like pulled aside the mentee and it's like, hey, we're just gonna like teach you how to do business.
Yeah.
And just like, but his idea was it was going to be more intentional and like start off as business, but like lead him into like life things and like how to be a good man.
Yeah.
And so he had 3 questions at the start of the film, and I'm like, man, that's good. So I pulled out my phone in the movie theater and I wrote them down real quick, because I knew I was going to forget them. In what ways do you want to grow in the next year? What type of man do you want to be? And what do you want people to think when they see you coming? I'm like,
those are great
questions. Those are great questions to ask anybody, including yourself. So folks that are listening, all 5 of you, answer those questions. We'd love to get an email from you to explain that.
Yeah, that would be great if y'all did that.
I don't know if I'm going to keep that last part because it was kind of, is it patronizing?
No.
Okay. Wait, where did my notes go? I went too far. Can't find my notes. Tell you what, Logan, the professionalism around here is unmatched. I tell you what.
I totally agree. Unmatched. My gods are men.
Yeah. Not to say that it's good.
No. So I believe that mentorship is actually a gift from God, because he can work and help shape us through that. Young men need mentors to help them become who God created them to be, because they can go through life without anybody teaching them any wisdom and just learning it all on their own. And that's detrimental to people, I think. Like, yeah, baptism by fire, you can learn a lot, but man, it can harm you too. It just learning it all on your own can be really harmful. Proverbs 11:14 says, where there is no guidance, a people fall, but in an abundance of counselors, there's safety. So I encourage all y'all, especially the young men, to seek out godly mentors and embrace their guidance and grow in wisdom and strength that comes from learning from those who've gone before us.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to the Stand Like Men podcast. If you have any questions or comments, we'd love if you would send us an email at standlikemen@gmail.com. And if you have any requests for future episodes, let us know.
Our verse is 1 Corinthians 16:13 and 14.
Be watchful.
Stand firm in the faith. Act like men. Be strong.
Let all that you do be done in love.